Hello again, everyone. How are you? This is the third video this week. I promise I'm filming all of these on different days. Today I'm going to teach you how to make rice. It's a really basic carbohydrate that is in a lot of recipes, and it's another one of those like special but also important and basic ingredients. And it cooks differently than pasta does. You need to pay attention to when you're cooking rice, because if you cook it wrong, it tastes really, really bad. So that's why I'm going to be showing you how to make it today. I just have regular white rice. You can use any type of rice that you want. However, one of the things that you should be aware of is that the different types of rice sometimes have different cooking steps and different instructions. So I highly suggest reading the package in order to figure out how to cook it, because that's going to give you a better idea. Before I add in this next clip of me adding the rice and the water to the pot, I want to preface it with something. So after cooking the rice and after cooking the recipe, I noticed that this rice took a lot longer to cook than I had anticipated, meaning that this package called for 15 minutes of cooking time, which is absolutely fair, and I followed the instructions. However, 15 minutes was probably too long because a lot of the rice ended up sticking to the bottom of the pan. So I think I have a solution for you. Before you get too far into the video, I would suggest letting the water come to a boil first before adding the rice. That is ordinarily how you would make 5-minute rice, and that's what we would use in the classroom because it takes less time. However, the store didn't have that when I bought the rice for this recipe today, so I used just whatever brand of rice I could find. Their cooking time said that it was going to be 15 minutes, so I followed the package instructions, and I think it was a little bit too much time. So a way to get around that is to boil the water first, then put the rice in. I think that that would be more helpful. So cut to the next clip where I'm adding everything in the pot. Just keep that in mind. You should probably let the water boil first. Okay, so with rice, one of the things that you need to remember is that you need 1 part rice for every 2 parts water. Meaning, if you are making 1 cup of rice, you're going to need 2 cups of water. The very first thing that you're going to do is add your water to the pot. And remember, when you measure your water, you need to measure it at eye level because it is a liquid and you should be using a liquid measuring cup. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add my rice directly to the water. Now, the rice that I have, because I read the back of the package, said that you just add everything to 1 pot of water before you even turn on the heat, whereas other types of rice do require you to boil the water first. Honestly, it's all gonna get cooked at one point or another. It really just depends on how firm or how squishy you want your rice to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in my 1 cup of rice. I'm going to stir it really quickly just to make sure that it's all incorporated in the water. Make sure that it's all submerged. I'm just making sure that nothing is floating toward the top. And then next, I'm going to bring the rice to a boil. So I'm going to turn the heat on high and put the lid on top. Remember that steam cooks rice, so make sure you do not lift the lid at any point, otherwise it's going to mess with the cooking of the rice. I'm going to keep an eye on this because I need to watch for when the water boils. Right after it comes to a boil, I'm going to turn the water down to a simmer so that way the rice can finish cooking. According to the package of this rice that I have, it should take about 15 minutes once I switch it to a simmer. All right, so now that my rice has come to a boil, it just occurred to me that you probably can't really even see that because of the lid and because of the steam that's coming up toward the lid. So that's my bad. Now that it's boiling, and hopefully you can see some of the foam in there, I turned it down to a simmer, meaning that I turned it down to low. And that's going to finish cooking the rice. So it should take, oh no. If that happens, it's okay to lift up the lid a little bit to let the foam drain out. That's okay. But again, I turned down the heat so that way it's now at a simmer. I'm going to let this continue to cook for about, I don't know, maybe another 10 minutes or so. I'm going to check on it. My goodness. I'm going to check on it every couple of minutes just to make sure that it's not doing this. Again, steam cooks rice, so make sure that you don't lift up the lid at all if possible, or if you do need to lift up the lid to let some of the foam out, that's okay too. However, just do it quickly because the steam is going to cook the rice. If you let too much of the steam out, then you run the risk of your rice becoming too firm or not cooking enough. So I'm gonna let this cook and then I will show you what it looks like when it's done. I've zoomed you. Okay, so I've zoomed you in just a little bit so that way you can see what's going on. The rice has been cooking for maybe 7 or so minutes, but you can still see little air bubbles and little water bubbles coming up through the rice. That means that it still has water in it, so therefore it still needs more time to cook. As it gets closer to being completely done, you're not going to notice those bubbles anymore because the rice will have absorbed all of the water. So look closely and hopefully you can see some of those little bubbles in there. And then I'm going to show you in a little bit, after it absorbs more of the water, what finished rice is going to look like. So now looking at the rice a little bit more closely, I can see that the majority of the water has been absorbed. I'm going to check to see if the rice is cooked all the way through and to see if all the water is absorbed. So this is a time where you can go ahead and take off the lid. I'm going to take a spoon. So now that I'm stirring it around a little bit, you can see that the majority of the rice has been cooked, which is exactly what we want. We want it to be slightly sticky. We want it to be fluffy. So now I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the pan and I'm going to put it in a bowl and make a burrito bowl with the leftover taco meat that I have. All right, so now I have my leftover taco meat from when I made taco ring. I heated it up in the microwave for a while and I'm just gonna pour that straight on. That's a lot more food than I thought it was gonna be. Okay, well. And then I'm going to top it with a little bit of shredded cheese, which is also a lot more shredded cheese than I thought it would be. But you know what, that's okay, we're gonna live a little. And now we have a taco bowl. Okay, so thank you for watching me cook rice and make the world's most interesting and least ingredient taco bowl. I haven't gone to the grocery store in a while, so I ran out of ingredients. Some other things that you could add to this would be like corn or black beans or peppers and things like that. You can saute a bunch of vegetables, you can saute onions and add that to it. However, I ran out of those things, so I didn't do that. Instead, it's just rice, meat, and cheese, which sometimes is all you need. That being said, there's a couple of troubleshooting things that I want to talk to you about before I end this video. One, if your rice gets stuck on the bottom of the pot, which mine did because I followed the package instructions, which you should always follow the package instructions, but sometimes they're not as great as just knowledge of cooking rice can be. So I followed the package instructions and that told me to throw everything into the pot at once, then bring it to a boil and then let it simmer, which I think was good at first. However, a lot of the rice ended up getting stuck to the bottom of my pan. I think that's because it took 15 minutes to cook as opposed to like maybe 5-minute rice or something like that. 5-minute rice is what we would ordinarily use in class, and that's my favorite type of rice to cook. This is just the type that I was able to find, so that's why I didn't use the regular 5-minute rice. That being said, because it cooked for so long, I think that that's why a lot of it got stuck to the bottom of the pan. If that happens, it's not the end of the world, it's very easy to fix. If your rice gets stuck to the bottom of your pan and you cannot easily scrape it off, you're going to stick the entire pot into the sink, fill it with some dish soap, and then fill the rest with water and let it soak for a little while. It may differ how long you need to let it soak. Usually 15 to 20 minutes is good, but if you notice that there's still a lot of stuff stuck to the bottom of the pan, you can let it soak longer. You can chip away at it, wash it, and then re-soak it. Any of those things work. One of the things that I think would have helped to prevent the rice getting stuck to the bottom of the pot is if I had boiled the water before adding the rice. That would have lessened the cooking time, which would have lessened the amount of time that the rice could potentially get stuck to the bottom. So that's something that I think could have helped. I didn't do that this time, but that's okay, because that just goes to show you that no matter how experienced you are with cooking, you can still make mistakes and you can still experiment. And if you have to clean up messes at the end, it's not the end of the world. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I am now going to eat my lunch because I'm very hungry and I want to eat the rest of the taco meat so that way it doesn't go bad. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this was helpful to you. And I also hope that it helped that you learned from my mistakes. That being said, tomorrow you will work on cooking your own recipe with that recipe assignment that I posted in Google Classroom. That will be due at the end of the day tomorrow, and Friday will be another Facts Friday. I hope you learned something, and thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Bye.